Greetings all, and welcome back to another news of the day type video regarding the entertainment world, and to some extent YouTube and TV and all that wonderful stuff. First thing, I want to touch on this because I always find this fascinating. So Florence Pugh is in a relationship with Zach Braff. Now Zach Braff is 2 years younger than I am. Florence Pugh is 24 years of age. And as soon as that gets revealed, all the comments are about how gross it is and how creepy it is and blah, 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 blah. There are relationships in this world that are terrible between people that are the same age. There are relationships between people that are terrible who have a huge age difference. And there are relationships that are great between people who are the same age and relationships that are great between people with a huge age difference. As an example, my wife and I, there's an 8-year age difference. If we had started dating at a younger age, there would have been a lot of comments made. And I've dated people who are younger. I've dated people who are older. Lived with a woman for years who was older than I was. It didn't really matter. And I really find it weird that we still, in 2020, are making this a big thing. Where it doesn't really matter. If Florence Pugh wants to date somebody who's older than she is, then that's fine. I really don't... I don't think it's a big deal. And I think what threw her off, because she's answered it, and she was quite taken aback and ticked off by the whole thing, is that we're dealing with a global pandemic and people are worried about who she's dating. Really. I just, and again, I know people are going to say, well, if they take it public, well, yeah, but she should have the ability to say who she's dating without people telling her it's gross. And she's not a kid. She's 24 years of age. She's not a kid. So, again, if that's the worst thing she does in her life, that's not too bad. That's not a horrible thing. And like I said, sometimes the age differences are great and sometimes they're not. And sometimes people who are the same age can be absolutely toxic for one another. It really doesn't. Age doesn't decide what a good relationship is. Because I know people who have a large age difference that it works, and people who haven't had an age difference that it hasn't. So, yeah. It can be odd sometimes when you see somebody with a huge age difference with the person that they're with. But personally, rather than say, what are you doing? My response is more of, I'm glad you're happy. And that's really the important thing, is whether or not somebody's happy and being treated well. And when they're both celebrities, there's something about celebrity that I would imagine that dating another celebrity, they understand some of the crap you go through. So anyways, yeah, just weird. Speaking of weird, so Cannibal Holocaust, if you haven't heard of it, don't go search it out. It's one of those movies. I got asked during the live stream today when I was playing Grand Theft Auto about movies that I didn't like. Now, I'm not going to say I didn't like Cannibal Holocaust because I didn't sit through it. It's a very disturbing movie. And it's one that after it was made, there were actual court cases and there were concerns that there was actual murder in the movie, that people actually died, and they had to produce the actors to go, hey, no, they didn't actually die, so case dismissed. And apparently there were sequels. I've never seen or heard of the sequels, so I'm not really interested in them either. And apparently there's a 4th part that's going to be released on the Switch as a game where you play as different characters, like a horror first person. It seems kind of weird for the Switch, doesn't it? Kind of odd. Almost as odd as apparently the new Resident Evil 3 remake you can finish in 3 hours. Makes people mad. You know what? I got to be honest. When I hear that a video game gets finished that quickly, it doesn't bother me as long as it has something else to it. As long as there's like a robust online part of it, or there's something else I can do with it, then it doesn't bother me if I can finish it in a few hours. But if that's the entire game, then yeah, considering the price of games right now, that would be very frustrating. But yeah, so I guess it's just called Cannibal, and it's going to be on the Switch. I'll get, when I eventually get a Switch, and it'll happen at some point, I'm more interested in the Mario Maker stuff and Mario stuff, and just not really into the first-person horror that would be. No. That's a no. Again, the original movie was just no. Green Inferno was a movie that came out a few years back, which was basically, it's not a remake, but it's a very similar idea, very, very similarly made, by Eli Roth, who has his own emotional issues. I would think if you've watched enough of his movies, you think this guy needs a hug or something or medicine. And you know, that movie too, that one kind of made me sick to my stomach, and it was kind of, and it's not my thing. I really enjoy like certain horror movies. That stuff doesn't do anything for me. It's not for me. So, okay, can I watch Evil Dead? Yep, Evil Dead's a good fun romp. It's a fun time, and even the 2013 Evil Dead with Jane Levy, really enjoyed it. Great, saw it in the theater 3 times. But yeah, those ones not so much. So there you go. Now with the closure of everything, AMC Theaters is basically saying if we don't have movie theaters open by like August, and I think they mean like fully open, like everybody back in the theaters by August, they're going to go out of business. We are going to hear of companies going out of business over the next few months. I would imagine production of certain shows may end up being put on hiatus. We may see shows that are supposed to debut like in September and October that get held over until the following year, or maybe January, February is where we're going to see the debut anyways, or instead. Or just production companies saying we're just going to shut it down and we'll have the debut of all the shows the following year. What I'm saying is that if TV and movies are your escape during all of this, at the time where we may be able to start seeing people go back to work in some kind of a released, controlled return to normalcy, the escape you have on television may disappear at the exact same time. So that's kind of where we're at. And we'll see, but AMC Theaters could end up going under. I don't know how many companies are going to end up having problems, but there are going to be some. I want to say, too, there's talk of a reboot of Spawn. It's been in development, I think, for a while. I remember hearing about this for a bit. I really enjoyed the Spawn movie. Spawn's one of those movies from the late 90s that I thought was really good, and it kind of got buried. And I think that Spawn could be excellent. And in this environment we're in right now, hey, bring about a Spawn movie. I'm all for that. The Spawn series was excellent as well. I had that and watched that. Just the idea of a superhero that's kind of a villain at the same time, and he has a limited amount of life force that every time he's in a fight he expends some of that. That's it's an interesting idea, and I think Spawn could experience some sort of a resurgence, a spawning, if you will, in 2020, and I think that would be really, really good. I don't know who plays Spawn though. I don't know who you can get to play Spawn that's going to play him as well as either the voice actor from the original series or the actor from the live series, or the live movie, I should say. But they'll figure something out. Spawn's fantastic. If you've never seen the movie from the late 90s, track it down. It is a good movie. Horror elements, sure. Superhero elements as well. And I think it could really work in this now, what's a golden age for comic book movies and series. Another thing that's interesting is, talking about movie theaters, drive-ins. Social distancing, go to the drive-in. You're in your car. You don't have to leave your car. This could actually lead to some sort of a resurgence of drive-ins. Now, they do take up a lot of space, and they might be a bit of a logistical nightmare, comparatively speaking, with what we have now with the multiplexes, but some money's better than no money at all. They generate income, and, drive-ins, who knows? Maybe people say, hey, this is fun, and what's old is new again. And again, it might just be out of necessity that the other theaters are closed. Well, the drive-in's still there. We can go to the drive-in. Coughed into my elbow. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that ends up becoming a thing or not. I'd be interested to know in the comment section below. Do you enjoy drive-ins? Would that be something that you right now would say, you know what, drive-in's open. Yeah, let's go to the drive-in and watch a movie. I want to say as well, I did watch yesterday's AEW episode. So they had Chris Jericho commentating with Tony Schiavone. I said this in a tweet, and then I was all giddy because Chris Jericho liked my tweet, which makes me just a giant wrestling geek. But it was really great. That was one of the best episodes of wrestling I've seen. And I just mean, and again, one of the things I complain about with wrestling is it shouldn't just be about getting to the next pay-per-view. Really, it shouldn't. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when WWE had Mania, and that was it. And then Survivor Series and Royal Rumble came in as well. But they didn't have a pay-per-view every 3 weeks. You don't have to go from pay-per-view match to pay-per-view match to pay-per-view match to, like, it gets really repetitive, and it gets to the point where it doesn't feel like anything has a consequence. Because, like, okay, oh, the bad guy beat the good guy. Well, 3 weeks from now, they're going to have a rematch. And then they might have another one. And then they might have another one. And eventually it gets to the point where who cares? This is like the 6th pay-per-view where these guys have been up against each other. AEW is doing this very, very well. I'm not seeing a lot of booking where it's the same guys against the same guys. They're pushing Brody Lee very, very well. Lance Archer looks like an absolute dominating force. And just AEW in general, they're doing things really, really well. And I have to give props to Hikaru Shida and Britt Baker for putting on what was the best women's match I've seen in AEW. Britt took a pretty brutal shot to the nose. She was bleeding all over the ring, and they just played off of it, and it was great. And Britt Baker, during that match, and then the promo she cut after that match where there's still blood all over her face, that was fantastic. That was absolutely great. She has taken herself a long way in a short period of time. When this show first started out, when the first episode of Dynamite was on and I was watching Britt Baker, I thought, well, they're going to try to make her the face of the women's division. I don't know, maybe. And her heel turn has been fantastic. It took her from just sort of this baby face that wasn't connecting. Not really, anyways. She wasn't winning enough. But as a heel, even though she's still not winning very often, she is amazing. Her promos are great. Her thing with Tony Schiavone has been great as well. And just, I can't say enough good things. Hikaru Shida is a very good wrestler as well. I'm a huge fan of hers. I really like what's going on right now. The women's division has been the weakness of the show. It's getting better. It is getting better. And a show yesterday which feels kind of like a throwaway episode. Well, that's what weekly episodes used to be in wrestling. There was a time when it wasn't just, okay, we're building the next pay-per-view, and now we're building to another one. Because again, you have this big build, then you have a title fight at the pay-per-view, and then the next night, it's somebody completely different. Or, you've got to have a rematch, got to have another rematch, then we got to have a rematch. I honestly think coming out of this, what we're going through in society, I think wrestling's going to be better for it. They've had to kind of reinvent themselves because they have to. And I think WWE and doing their cinematic matches and doing something different there. And I think AEW with the announced team that they've had with Jericho and Schiavone, it's been absolutely great. And I really think that some of the wrestling that's being done here is fantastic. I was even interested in what happened with that best friends versus they want to be the best friends match. Even though I really shouldn't have been. I normally wouldn't be, but here I am. And the Dark Order is very interesting. And there are people who might want to take shots at it because basically AEW is making fun of Vince McMahon through Brody Lee. Right, and WWE spent plenty of time making fun of WCW back in the day, so as far as I can tell, this is just something that wrestling's always sort of done, where you kind of, make fun of the opposition. For instance, their next pay-per-view is going to, well, their big event was going to be Blood and Guts, which has been pushed off because of the no fans in attendance thing, which I agree with. And of course, Blood and Guts was the terminology Vince apparently used to describe the AEW product, that they're not going to use blood and guts like they do. So I like it. I like they took ownership of that. Tiger King is the thing that won't go away. It's not going away. It's just not. We don't have anything else to watch, so it's just not going away. Although I'll get to what I'm watching. So apparently there's a bonus episode coming out on Sunday, and it sounds like it's going to be Joel McHale doing interviews with people who on how their life has changed since Tiger King, or may very well be them answering things that have come out since then. We all want to see that interview with Carol Baskin, right? Do we want to see her on a lie detector? Do we? I'm just kidding. Carol, if you watch this, I'm sure with all the cats and kittens that you're just absolutely fantastic. And people watching this can debate whether I'm saying that because I genuinely don't think she did it, or I don't want to be fed to a tiger. It is up to people watching this to decide. I'm not going to make that decision, because I'm not in a position to make that decision, because I don't have all the information. And again, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, they don't give you all the information. They present to you the side they want to show you. And at the very least, whatever they're going to release on Sunday with Joel McHale as the host, we may very well get more information, or we may get less, and we may have more questions coming out of it. It's made a lot of money for Netflix, so I've got to think that for Netflix, they're going to try to provide more content and draw in more subscriptions and more hours of view time. So we'll see. Last night I tried to resume the 100. I lost interest in the 100 as we got into season 2. And this was shortly before Yvonne and I got together, where I was trying to catch up with where friends of mine at work were, because they kept talking about the 100. And yes, they were younger than me. But I started watching it, and I had to balance how dumb certain characters were, and there were a lot of dumb characters, and then some of the plot lines that didn't make any sense. Now, I'm only starting the 3rd episode of season 2 when I get back on it. The 2nd episode I actually laughed at, and that's not a good sign, that I'm laughing at a show where the Grounder leader, whatever it is, they were trying to get Nico back from the Reapers. It just sounds silly. It just sounds so stupid. And when they're filming it in areas that I recognize, I'm like, you know, for nuclear fallout, those woods still look pretty much exactly the same as what we have right now. So I'm trying, but Clark is really aggravating. She's always endangering people, and then you've got Octavia, and Octavia is kind of fantastic in there somewhere. There's a really fantastic character to be fleshed out, I hope, and no, please don't spoil it for me. I'm getting close to spoiling it for myself and just saying screw it. Apparently it's got one more year coming, season 7, and then that's it. And how did it get to 7 years? How did, although it's only 100 episodes, so I guess they don't do full episodes, like 22 episodes a year. I don't see how you could. It's just stupid. I'm not going to make it, am I? So, yeah, Octavia is following these grounders, and she's just like ducking her head down like they can't bloody see her. And I've been in those woods, and yeah, you could totally hear somebody running. There's kindling. There's just like all kinds of twigs that be snapping while she's running along. She's running along, and they're just, you know, they're walking. She's running along to keep up with them. They know you're there, you moron. Anyways, so at the point where they're like, oh, you need to use her as bait, and Octavia's like, I'm going to be bait. You're going to be bait. And then she said, I am not afraid. And in my Yoda voice, I went, you will be. You will be. And then the grounder leader goes, you will be. And I'm like, oh my God. And I lost it. I thought it was so funny. My other problem with the 100, and I'm sure this doesn't change, is that there'll be, you know, like villains in a room and the heroes in the room, and the villains go out the door, and they're maybe 2 feet away from the actual hero. They're still on the other side of the door, and they go, all right, coast is clear. It's not, though. The door just, I don't even know if the knobs, if they took their hand off of it. It's not, the coast is not clear. When shows do this kind of thing, it drives me insane. It's the kind of thing that when you're a kid you don't notice, but as an adult it drives you nuts. This is why I don't go back and watch Knight Rider. I don't go back and watch A-Team. I don't go back and watch anything I loved as a kid, because I know it's going to drive me nuts as an adult. I've tried a couple episodes of Knight Rider, I'm like, my God, I watched this? And it's terrible to actually just take your childhood and just beat on it. It's like, as much as people complain about George Lucas ruining our childhood, you know what? Going back and watching TV shows you liked as a kid with adult eyeballs is far worse than anything George Lucas did with the prequels. So I am trying with the 100. I'm going to try. I'm going to see how far I can get through. I'm gonna see, because I was like, okay, Octavia cares way too much about this Lincoln guy. She seems to completely lost focus on what's important right now, which is not being dead. And, you know, Nico's like, all right, I got you back to health. Thanks. Boom. All right, I knocked you out. Sorry. And then it's like she does all this crappy stuff to him, and he's still got this look on his face like, well, what can you do? Seriously, smack her. Like, and I am the most pacifistic person. You guys watch my live stream, right, with Grand Theft Auto. I'm a pacifist. I don't like blowing stuff up. I don't even shoot at other people in the game. But man, how many times did she smack him around? Like, yeah, no, just give her just you. She. Holy crap. And Clark, my God, Clark. So I'm one episode back into it, and I'm already having these experiences where it's like I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I can do it. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try, but I'm many seasons behind. So at some point I may do a Supergirl and just skip a season. I'm like, all right, so for that season, let's see what happens at the end. All right, nothing. Okay, I'm really glad I didn't waste time on that. Now, one thing I want to end this on, after all the meandering about the 100, dear Lord, criticism versus hate. So this is a comment that comes up a lot on the internet, and it happens with YouTubers, and it's happening with Jaclyn Hill. So Jaclyn Hill, for people who've been following this channel long enough, know that she made crappy lipstick. And after she made some crappy lipsticks, well, her name's on the crappy lipstick. It was made by Morphe, and they used a really cheap, crappy place to make it. And Jaclyn has never, I mean, she's apologized, kind of, sort of, but not really. But Jaclyn Hill has also had a weight problem. And people on the internet are really terrible towards her because she's gained weight. I don't know how much, but it shows. And she's one of those people that shows in her face. Now, I can identify with that because it shows in mine as well when I gain weight. And so when I lost the 40 pounds, everybody's like, yay. And now I still do the treadmill because I know how the internet works. And that if I slipped up in my workouts, and if I ate a little bit more than I've been eating recently, that I would start seeing those comments over again. Not that they've technically stopped. There are still people that make comments as if I haven't lost 40 some pounds. But there's nothing I can do about that. But there is a difference. And it's funny because, you know, I do see sometimes where people are like, this guy just can't take criticism. There's a difference between criticism and hate. And I do think on the internet, we will spew things about people and not understand that it's not criticism, it's hate. And there's a fine line there. And I do agree that if you're going to criticize, I've criticized Jaclyn for how she handled her makeup rollout. And the fact that videos magically show up from her when she has a new release coming. Oh, what a surprise. You know, I'm going to be back. I promise. I'm going to make more videos. And here's a new makeup palette. Promise there'll be more videos. And then she just stops. Like, all right, so you did that for makeup palette. But at the same time, I can kind of understand if she's staying away because of the criticism. Emma Blackery is another one who I think it affects her, that she has gained some weight. And people have been on her about that. And I do think as well, and I'm saying that while I have seen that directed towards myself as a YouTuber, I think it's more geared towards women than men, mostly, okay, when you're talking about online and with YouTube, where a lot of what makes a YouTuber popular is going to be their looks. And for women, I think that's definitely a big part of it. And I don't know how healthy that is. I don't know how well that goes for body positivity, and it sucks. And I know it's something that the YouTube have clumsily tried to handle, the some of the trolling and some of the comments and some of this, and they've tried, but they've been really clumsy about it. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, for Jaclyn, she could turn off the comments on her videos, but she knows as well as I do. If you turn off the comments on your videos, you lose a massive part of what grows a community. Because I've had people saying, well, you know, on certain videos you could disable comments. On the other channel where I've talked about something that I know I'm going to get a lot of negativity about. But if I turn off the comments, you're portrayed then as a coward, and then you have to deal with that hate on all your other videos. So if she disables the comments on a video and then she posts a different one, all those hateful comments that were going to be on that, they'll just go on the new one. Where people are going to be like, yeah, since you were scared on that, you look really fat now, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's going to be, or, you know, that last video of yours, that was a fraud. Like, there's going to be that hate is just going to go over onto those other videos. So disabling comments doesn't work unless you want to disable them on all videos. And in that case, you're going to see very, very limited growth on your channel, and you're going to get a lot of other accusations. And again, criticism I can understand. There are certain channels that have disabled comments that I've said that wasn't cool. But there are certain ones where I kind of understand it, where I'm like, yeah, they were dealing with so much hate, and it can get in the way. And this happens again up here, going back to the first item I talked about, Florence Pugh and Zach Braff. If you don't like that they're dating each other, odds are you probably weren't dating Zach Braff or Florence Pugh anyways. Probably didn't have a shot with either of them, so or both, and so it really doesn't affect your everyday life. And I wish them the best, and I mean that. Like I said, I know of couples that have tremendous age differences, and it feels like this is a North American thing, because in most other societies, I know in like most Latino families that I hung around with, there was always a big age difference between people, and it could be 15, 20, 25 years. There were some that were the same age, but a lot of them, and sometimes very successful 25, 30-year relationships, and they could be huge age differences between them, and nobody batted an eye. Where I would even say, isn't this kind of weird? And they go, no. All right, cool. All right. As long as, you guys are all fine with it, then all right. And you could see where things were perfectly fine. And yeah, this, it's odd. But again, there's criticism, which would be going to Florence going, so you're good, like you're happy? Yeah, okay, all right. And just asking, and then the hate of this is terrible and it's creepy. Yeah, anyways. When you turn on a webcam and you have a channel like this, you do invite a certain amount of criticism. You do invite a certain amount of critique from people in general, but there are those that will cross that line. And I've learned that over the last 4 years, and so I do my best to. I mean, there are people that I argue with regularly on the hockey channel that are still on the hockey channel, and then there are others that I just go, and you're not bringing anything to the community, and so I'm gonna pull that out of there. And these are people that will just pick fights with everybody, and I'm like, yeah, this is where I would actually have emails and contacts with people from the channel say, yeah, I don't know, I have to stay out of your comment section, and because they felt like they had to stay out of my comment section, they weren't watching my videos as much. So this is where the shutting down comment sections thing comes into it. It is a big part of the videos that we're creating on this platform. And if people feel like they can't connect with that part of the platform, it can be difficult to connect with the videos themselves. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching during this time of trial and tribulation. And hey, remember to stay home when you can. Stay as safe as possible. I'll be here every day providing content for you fine people. And I will talk to you again very soon.